So you've probably gone to the grocery store and seen the labels on all of the foods that say non-GMO. So GMO stands for genetically modified organism. And this can mean different things in different situations, but often there's a reason for making something a genetically modified organism. This could be to increase crop yields or to make foods more nutritious. All right. So recombinant, there's that word again. So that just means recombine. We're going to have two different things coming together. So this means that a gene for one thing has been inserted into a different organism. These recombinant cells or organisms are used for making DNA products, usually protein. This is You can think of these as a really big protein factories for making one specific product. Bacteria are often used to make insulin. Diabetics, especially type 1, will take insulin to help control their blood sugar levels. We used to, before genetic technology, we used to take insulin from other animals like pigs, and it's close, but not exactly the same. And so people would end up having side effects like allergic reactions. So instead, we started using plasmids to make recombinant bacteria that allow us to produce lots of human insulin. So that's what human insulin, human. One other method we've developed for preventing diseases are vaccines. So a vaccine gives your body kind of a sneak peek at the pathogen so that you can build up an immune response to it, but in a safe way. This happens if you come across an actual virus, then you'll already be immune. So yeast cells are used to make proteins, which are found on the hepatitis B virus, and then can provide us with those materials to go ahead and make the hepatitis B vaccine. The recombinant goat that you can see in the picture was given a gene for producing EPO. EPO is a hormone that stimulates the growth of red blood cells. So this EPO hormone is actually extracted from the goat's milk and then can be sold as a pharmaceutical for people who need to produce more blood cells. Genetically modified organisms is not a new concept. People have been selectively breeding plants and animals for many, many years. It's only with the advent of DNA technology that we've been able to directly manipulate the genes. So often we use a soil bacteria as a means of transferring genes from one organism to another. Most GMOs are invented in research laboratories in response to some sort of problem. They increase crop yields to make farming more affordable, like genetically modified corn and wheat. Almost everything in the grocery store has been modified at some point in its life. Sometimes they're used to make food more nutritious. So this is the case with the golden rice, which you can see here. A lot of third world countries suffer from malnutrition, and people without vitamin A can't make the protein needed in your eyes to see. And so when there's a severe nutrient depletion, those people can actually go blind. And golden rice, it gets a yellow color because it contains beta-carotene, which is what our bodies use to make vitamin A. There was also a lot of pushback against GMOs, so amongst society as a whole. The Golden Rice Project actually had a lot of organizations that were against it, claiming that it was not going to provide enough beta-carotene, or that it was just enough way for these genetic companies to make a profit by selling their crops. The project was started in the early 2000s, with the first crop being tested in 2004, and it just got approved by the FDA to be used in its first country, the Philippines, in 2019. So it has not had the widespread effect that the Golden Rice Project was attempting to have. One of the things that really slowed it down was the pushback from the non-GMO organizations. One of the biggest concerns about GMOs is the safety of humans. So are humans safe if they eat genetically modified organisms? So far to date, there haven't been any studies that show that there's any risk to human health. There also haven't been any long-term studies either. The textbook mentions one study about the effectiveness of golden rice, and it was tested to show that it is almost as effective as taking a vitamin A beta carotene supplement. So, which begs the question is, why not just give the kids that are going blind from vitamin A deficiency a supplement rather than mass producing a giant genetically modified rice? Another major concern is environmental safety. So, when crops are genetically modified, one of the biggest concerns is called transgenic escape. So, this is when a modified gene escapes from the target species and gets taken up by the weeds or other plants in the surrounding area. It's usually plants. So, imagine that we made a crop that was resistant to pesticides so that farmers would use less pesticides. This crop would grow better. And then, if this gene escaped into the environment, it could create what's called superweeds. And they would also be resistant to these pests, and they would be able to grow unchecked as well. So no major escapes have really been documented like this. And then there are people who argue that genetically modified bacteria or other organisms can be helpful to the environment. So there's a type of genetically modified bacteria that have been made to be able to eat the carbohydrates in oil spills, so they can be released where there's an oil spill and actually help break down the toxins that are polluting the environment. Gene therapy is when genes are inserted into humans to help cure genetic diseases. Someone has a mutation with a gene that causes them to be sick. The gene from a healthy person is then put into a virus, and the virus is injected into the sick person's bone marrow, where blood is made. Because we constantly make blood, it may replicate the gene enough to make enough proteins for them to cure their disease. So this was done in children with SCID. So SCID stands for Severe Combined Immunodeficiency. And so this is a fatal disease that causes children to develop no immune system. So think about the number of times you got sick as a kid. These children would have to live in a germ-free bubble, because anything as much as a simple cold would kill them. Most kids with SCID die in the first 2 years of life. So we treated 22 children with gene therapy, inserting the genes that's not mutated, and then about 60% of these children that were treated went on to live full lives. Unfortunately, 4 of those that were treated and recovered went on to develop leukemia, which is a blood cancer. So this means that the virus that was used to insert the gene would have gotten put into a place where it caused problems with the cell cycle, and there was unregulated growth, too many blood cells. Eugenics is the study of how to arrange reproduction within a human population to increase the occurrence of heritable characteristics regarded as desirable. So, for example, not having SCID would be desirable over having SCID. And so eugenics would be this manipulation of the DNA so that people are not sick. So gene therapy and tools such as the CRISPR-Cas9 can raise these ethical questions of, should we be tampering with the human genome? Is this okay to do if it's curing a disease? What about if it's going to eradicate disease from our populations? Is it okay to use these tools to decide what a baby will look like before they're born? So what if a parent wanted their child to be tall with brown eyes and dark skin? Is it okay to decide that before the child's even conceived? What governing bodies should regulate this kind of research? And how much do you trust those governing bodies to regulate it effectively and ethically?